Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today again on Living Local Carolina. I'm in the studio with my friends from Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. Welcome back to Living Local.
Thanks, Katie. We appreciate it.
Good morning, Katie.
All right, we're doing some learning and educating today. So the hypothetical situation we've been talking about is if somebody's watching right now and you get into a car accident, you don't have insurance, what do? Can you get help for it if you have injuries?
Yes, and there's several ways to go about that. First, some people are under the impression that, let's take an automobile accident situation. So they're hit and they assume that the at-fault driver's insurance is going to pay for their medical care. Mm-hmm. And that, by and large, does not happen. The insurance companies are only going to pay at the very end, mm-hmm. after you've gotten your medical treatment, after depending on the injury, once they're able to evaluate whether you've suffered a permanent impairment rating. So the insurance companies, they're not going to come in and just fund your medical care. So for people who don't have health insurance, it's a big issue. So what we can do is we work with two companies that they act almost like an insurance company. And mm-hmm. what they do is, if you've been injured in an automobile accident or another type of, or you've suffered some other type of injury, whether it be a slip and fall or whatever, or a dog bite case, they will come in and they contract with different providers. Okay. Whether it be orthopedists or hospitals or surgical centers, they will come in and fund the medical care for the injured person. And that is, and that's huge, because if you're hurt, going without medical care, that's not a solution. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's definitely not a solution. So we can work with the medical funding companies so that the person can get the treatment that they need. Yeah. And what happens is, once the case settles, whatever settlement is reached, then we are responsible for working with the funding companies to get those, amounts paid back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and similar when someone's out of work.
Sure. Well, one thing I do want to clarify is if you're in an accident or injured in any way and it's an emergency, go to the hospital.
Yeah. Period.
They're not going to turn you away, whether it's a motor vehicle accident, dog bite, et cetera. So we're talking about additional care. Non-emergency care.
Yeah, follow-up care.
Yeah, follow-up care. So we don't want to give them the wrong impression. Certainly go to the hospital, take an ambulance if necessary. Those are things that are covered, that they will treat you. And if there's a situation where a lot of people are unable to work, sometimes there's policies that they have on their own insurance, which will help. If not, and we're in a situation, sort of an extreme situation, there are funding companies that will require you to have an attorney, but that we're able to contract with, and they will loan money against the proceeds of a case.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there are other things about personal injury cases where if someone has suffered a permanent impairment, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have health insurance, then we as a law firm, we can cover the expense of, getting this person a permanent impairment rating, sending them to whether it be an orthopedist or some other medical provider that does assign permanent impairment ratings. But that is a cost to the law firm. And mm-hmm. of course, we're going to ask to get that back at the end, once the case settles. But, there are different mechanisms to get the person not only the medical care that they need, but also ensure that their damages are covered with a permanent impairment rating. Are they able to work? Can they earn the same amount of money that they did before they were injured compared to after the injury?
Yeah.
So these are all things that we can coordinate and we can pay for, just ensure that the injured client is receives fair compensation.
Yeah, gotcha. And this is obviously a very condensed version of what you guys do. And we have an example coming up right after the break. We're going to be hearing from an actual client of Beach Injury Lawyers, Juliana, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Living Local Carolina on this special edition. I'm joined once again by the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers and Juliana, who is a nursing student at Coastal, right?
Yes,
All right. Juliana, you're a client of Beach Injury Lawyers.
I am.
Tell me a little bit about your story and how you got to meet these great guys.
Well, shortly after I moved here, I'm from Texas, so I'm not from here around these parts. I was in my neighborhood just having a great time on the weekend and unfortunately got bit by a dog, which was not fun, and had to go to the emergency room and all those kinds of things. And when I kind of realized it was a bigger issue than I thought, I was advised to seek legal help. So I stumbled upon these guys and just instantly knew that they were the people to take care of me, and they kind of helped me walk through every step of the way, because I mean, I'm young, I'm 22, I have no idea what to do. I was like, I got hurt, you know? Help, I'm in school, you know, this accident put me back 6 months in school.
Good.
Because you are not allowed to participate in clinicals if you're physically like not fit, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of helped me figure out what to do, how to plan around things, and move forward with the legal part of it. So that was a big help.
And you got bit on your hand,
Yes,
right?
my left hand.
Your hands are necessary
To
be a
especially
nurse.
for nursing. Yeah.
So this was huge.
Yeah.
And it took how long for you to get back to, are you good now?
I'm still not 100%. I still have pain, and I work in a hospital now. I work at Conway Medical Center, and I have to push hospital beds and patients and things like that. And it's, you know, it still hurts sometimes, especially after a 12-hour shift. At school, when I'm doing stuff, it still hurts. But I mean, if I wouldn't have done what I did and sought legal help and done the things that I would have, I probably would not have had the recovery that I did.
Yeah.
So not 100%, but getting there.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing a little better at least.
Yeah.
Juliana was actually, she was bitten by an English Mastiff, which is a very, very large dog with a very powerful bite. And when the dog bit her in her left hand, it caused nerve damage in her palm. And Juliana had to have surgery with her left hand. It was very traumatic, very traumatic for her. And so our job was to not only ensure that Juliana was doing what she needed to do in terms of getting better, you know, make sure you follow what your doctors are saying. You know, if they tell you to do X, do X. But it was also our job to see, number one, did Juliana suffer a permanent impairment or permanent injury in her hand? If so, then we need to get an impairment for her. And impairments are used for compensation purposes, right? There are dollar amounts that are attached to impairment ratings. So to get her impairment ratings, get her, if she needed help coping with the fact that, you know, that she was attacked by a very large dog, you know, that's our role, is to ensure that Juliana does in fact get the care that she needs. And, you know, we actually just recently settled her case. And
Yes, we did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
and I hope she's happy with,
I am
with
very
the way
happy.
things went.
Good. Good.
I am, yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that things worked out for you, and now you can pursue your dreams of becoming a nurse.
I know. Graduate May of 2025, so I'm getting there.
Wow.
So
that's
close.
exciting. Big things are in the future for Juliana. So say somebody is in a similar situation and they get bit by a dog, which I hear happens quite frequently. What should they do? What are those next steps they should take?
Well, of course, if they're injured, which normally if you're bitten by, certain types of dogs, you're going to be injured as a result of them biting or attacking you, is go to the hospital.
Yes.
Go to the hospital. You need to get checked out. You need the emergency physicians to look and see what, if any, damage has been done, and then that just helps you build your medical carrier case, against the at-fault party.
But guys, stick with us, because coming up after the break, we're going to be doing our new segment called What's New in the Law. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned. Well, thanks for sticking with us today on Living Local Carolina. I've been hanging out with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers, and of course we're going to be doing our new segment called What's New in the Law, which we're still kind of workshopping the title here because it's what's not new in the law today, right?
We're trying to change it up a little bit, and so there were some fairly significant pieces of legislation in the General Assembly this year that actually didn't make it to the governor's desk.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, and we'll start off with.
Sure. So, well, the first one we can start with, there was proposed legislation that actually passed the House but didn't pass the Senate, and this legislation would have enhanced penalties for crimes that were committed and if they were proved to be motivated by discrimination on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation. Which a lot of states have passed that, and it did pass the House, but it did not pass the Senate. So that's kind of where we stand with that one.
And I think just from reading, I think South Carolina is just one of 2 states that doesn't have a hate crime statute. I think Wyoming might be the other state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another piece of legislation was medical marijuana.
I did hear about this.
Yeah, so that's every year the push to legalize medical marijuana comes up in the General Assembly, and it never passes. And medical marijuana was it does have positive effects on people with multiple sclerosis, the cancer treatments, glaucoma, PTSD. There's just Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So there's a whole host of ailments that that can be you can treat with medical marijuana. Again, it doesn't cure you, but it lessens the side effects of those. So. But again, when you get into the issue of legalizing marijuana, even though it's for medical purpose only, it's really a hot button topic because people, the legislature doesn't want to see people walking around on the street smoking marijuana, and I think there's a feeling that that's what it's going to lead to. Once you legalize medical marijuana, then the next step is to legalize marijuana for recreational use. And I'm sure it'll come back up next year, but again, based on past history, it probably isn't going to pass.
Yeah, we're one of only 4 states in the nation that completely that marijuana is completely illegal, and the trend has been once medical marijuana has been passed in states, then it does open the door, and recreational comes next. So we can understand the concerns of the legislature, but they're having to weigh the benefits for the health benefits versus, the safety concerns.
So it's seeming that marijuana will not be legal in South Carolina anytime soon.
I think that's probably a good bet.
Gotcha.
I think that's a good bet. The last one is liquor stores opening on Sundays.
Okay.
Right. So again, everybody knows you cannot go into a liquor store on Sundays because they are closed in the state of South Carolina. And that again goes back to the Sabbath, and they for years and years the General Assembly has simply not wanted to open up liquor stores on Sundays. Beer and wine, yes, but liquor, no. And it's similar. North Carolina has the same prohibition. The the bill that was considered this year was really a reflection of the Georgia statute. Georgia liquor stores can open up, I think, from 12:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m. on Sundays.
Okay.
But again, it's not. You're getting back to. I remember in North Carolina when I was growing up, you couldn't order a drink in a restaurant.
I did not know that.
You could. I remember my father. He would occasionally have a drink, and he would have to bring it with him, and go into a restaurant, and it would have to be in a pouch, and then you could give it to the, you could give it to the wait staff, and they would pour you a drink, and of course you'd have to pay them to pour you that drink. And of course, then you had dry counties. Same here in North Carolina, very similar. But you had dry counties where you could not drink.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.